All right, everybody, we're going to be starting the Canterbury Tales. So the prologue is very, very long. It's like many pages. We're not going to be reading the entirety of the prologue because it's crazy just how long it is. Um, yeah, it's like 900 lines. We're not doing that. Instead, I'm going to be reading part of the prologue to you, just the very beginning, and then you guys are going to kind of break it up into pieces. I'm going to be assigning you a pilgrim in the next activity, and then your job is to read about that pilgrim specifically, take notes on them. You'll submit that to Canvas, and then we'll kind of talk about the important pilgrims, and then that'll move us into the tales of each one. So the Canterbury Tales is kind of a framing narrative. There's a man called the host, and it's about all of these pilgrims who are on their way to pray at the shrine of St. Thomas a Becket. Okay. The reason why they're going to see St. Thomas a Becket is because the 14th century was a really, really crappy time. So they're traveling in spring, right? They start in April here. And spring would have been really exciting for them because winter was awful. It was cold. It was dark. It was brutal. Our climate actually on Earth was really cold at this time. It was going through what historians have called like a little ice age, which sounds adorable, but I imagine was really unpleasant. There's no electricity, obviously, so the only heat and light we have is coming from the sun or a fire if it's nighttime. The Black Death happened very recently, so for people, this is still something that they're constantly worried about, that they or their loved ones are going to die because of this plague that might come back. It ran from 1347 to 1349, but there were outbreaks in 1369, 1374, 1379, and 1390. So it's not like it was just gone, right? It just kept kind of coming back in these little outbreaks that really freaked people out. And it's not like medicine was particularly impressive at this point either. It was really primitive. Superstition was really the name of the game when it came to medicine. In the 14th century, Europe lost about 40% of its population. Part of that was due to the plague. Part of that was due to food shortages. Part of that was due to war. There was the Hundred Years' War with France at this time that dealt with kind of making everything miserable. So these pilgrims are going on a pilgrimage, right? That's why they're called pilgrims, to go see St. Thomas a Becket at the Shrine of Canterbury. We talked a little bit about St. Thomas a Becket already. And yeah, they need some things. So there's 24 pilgrims, and our narrator is the host. He is already staying at this Tabard Inn in Southwark, so this little town just south of London. And he basically tells them like, oh, tell us some stories about yourselves. And, that'll kind of pass the time. So the prologue introduces all of the 24 pilgrims, and then there are 24 stories that goes along with each one. So like the pardoner has his own tale, the wife of Bath has their own tale, the summoner, the miller, blah, blah, blah. We're only going to read a couple of the tales as well, because again, Canterbury Tales is real long. So that's kind of where it's what sets up the prologue for you. Okay. When in April the sweet showers fall and pierce the drought of March to the root, and all the veins are bathed in liquor of such power as brings about the engendering of the flower. When also Zephyrus with his sweet breath exhales an air in every grove and heath upon the tender shoots, and the young sun his half course in the sign of the ram has run, and the small fowl are making melody that sleep away the night with open eye, so nature pricks them and their heart engages. Then people long to go on pilgrimages, and palmers long to seek the stranger strands of far-off saints, hallowed in sundry lands, and specially from every shire's end of England down to Canterbury they wend, to seek the holy blissful martyr, quick to give his help to them when they are sick. Right? So it's lovely right now, right? It's April, it's beautiful, everything's waking up after this long, difficult winter, and they're going to go see that holy blissful martyr is St. Thomas a Becket. So they're going to go see him because he helps people, right? To give his help to them when they were sick. So again, kind of alluding to the Black Death and the kind of general malnutrition and difficulties that people are going through kind of at this time. It happened in that season that one day in Southwark as the tabard, as I lay, ready to go on pilgrimage and start for Canterbury, most devout at heart, at night there came into that hostelry some 9 and 20 in a company of sundry folk, happening then to fall in fellowship, and they were pilgrims all, that towards Canterbury meant to ride. All right, so in a complicated way of saying this, we've got a bunch of pilgrims who have decided to travel together because the roads aren't safe at this time, right? You don't want to travel alone because you're likely to fall prey to bandits, or you might get injured, or you might run out of food, or whatever. Traveling in a big group meant safety. It meant fellowship, and it meant that maybe people would help you out if something terrible happened to you. So all of these people are on their way to Canterbury, so they decide to travel together, and they all stop at this inn at the same time. The rooms and stables of the inn were wide. They made us easy, all was of the best. And briefly, when the sun had gone to rest, I'd spoken to them all upon the trip, and was soon one with them in fellowship, pledged to rise early and to take the way to Canterbury, as you heard me say. But nonetheless, while I have time and space, before my story takes a further pace, it seems a reasonable thing to say what their condition was, the full array of each of them, as it appeared to me, according to profession and degree, and what apparel they were riding in. And at a night, I therefore will begin. So he is going to focus on their job, what they're riding in, and then how they appeared to him. So he's basically going to offer judgment on all these pilgrims long before we actually get to meet them. So Chaucer, as you might have guessed by all the things we did on satire, is a prince of satire. He's incredibly gifted at satire. So when you're reading these, you kind of have to think about, you have to kind of read between the lines. What is it that he's really trying to say about this person? Are they humble? Are they dressing in clothing above or below their station? That kind of thing. I'm going to give a little bit more background on this on your note-taking portion. But yeah, basically that's what you want to kind of think about. So you're going to be assigned a pilgrim, and then you'll fill in some information about them. So if you've got any questions about the Canterbury Tales, go ask Miss Murdoch. I'll see you guys later.